Today we have a new guest, and the purpose for today's conversation is to understand how um, how emotional intelligence and spiritual awareness is crucial in leadership. Leadership, I believe, is not just a uh, designation. Leadership is a part of our daily lives. Every time you and me, we decide something. What are we going to have for breakfast? How does the day look like? How does the 9 to 5 schedule look like? How are we going to spend the evenings, the morning routines? All this comes under leadership. Regardless of whether you believe you're a leader or you believe that a CEO or a founder is a leader, trust me, everyone above the age of 18 is a leader by default, whether you are aware of this or not, because every day you make decisions. Like today, we made a decision to welcome Gabrielle to the podcast. This is where I took the leadership to initiate this session, and Gabrielle took the leadership to uh, choose a subject and to dedicate a part of her schedule, of her valuable time to this session. So here, and you, the viewer, is also a leader because you chose to watch this session. So congratulations to all of you leaders. Welcome, Gabriel, from the US.
Um,
She's from the United States.
It's wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me.
How can leaders develop empathy without appearing emotionally weak or passive?
Well, when you think about the word empathy, it means that you're aware of what other people are feeling. That's a lot of intelligence. You have to understand people, but you also have to understand the constitution of emotion. So when you, as a leader, are taking the initiative, you're getting to know people. And I have to tell you, one of the things that I love most about Spanish is there are two different words for the word to know, K-N-O-W. One is saber, which is knowing information, and another one is conocer, and that's knowing a person. You can get to know a lot of information about other people. And then when you put the pieces together, you actually understand who they are. So when you're talking about empathy, that's emotional intelligence. It's being able to understand not only what they're feeling, but why they're feeling it and how they're feeling it. And that's a key, especially in leadership, to making or taking the direction with that person, maybe in front of them as the director and potentially even next to them as a co-worker. And that's another thing that really requires discernment and good judgment. Empathy means you understand who they are, and that's strength because it's mental and it's physical and it's emotional all in one package.
I would like to comment that yes, in general, Spanish have a, a decent work-life balance, which means that they do get the time over the weekends or whenever they have a day off to reflect on themselves, to uh,
Yeah.
understand their emotions. Actually, in general, my observation, Europeans have that work-life balance where they can give time to themselves, to their families. except for the UK, because I think that the UK is still has some American culture and a mix of American and European. But in Europe, I will comment that definitely from my personal observation, Spain is one place where the work-life balance uh,
Right.
exists for most, not every person, but for most, it does exist. And I'm yet to travel more European countries, so as I travel more, I will know more. But then again, it always depends on the person, their lifestyle, and some people have to work longer hours, and that means
Yeah.
that as a consequence, there's less time to give to yourself.
Right. Well, and again, when we're talking about the quantity of time, people also forget about the quality of
Quality,
time
yes,
they spend with the people. I think honestly, one of the biggest failures as a country that we have displayed is we would rather text the person that we live with than call them. And we would rather wait to have some kind of electronic correspondence than physically be with them in the same space. So like last night, my children and I went out to dinner. It was for an hour, but we talked about everything that we were all thinking about for the previous 3 days. So the time that we spent together was emotionally it was very relaxed, but it was also very safe because we knew that in a public place, eating very good food, we were all going to have a
yeah,
good time. If we had to talk about something that was difficult, and that's about the emotional awareness, it's about empathy, it's about saying, now I understand mentally the concept of what you're explaining to me that emotionally you may be going through, and then responding to that in a confident and in an insightful way. You can still be sensitive to other people's feelings. That doesn't mean you have to be weak or overly emotional.
definitely.
You just need to spend quality time with people to know them, not just know about them.
Exactly. And on that note, I will definitely meet you offline in Seattle in a Starbucks because offline wins over online.
I think so.
And
It really does.
another point that I want to make on that note is it's definitely the quality of time and audience. Quality of time is not endlessly watching reels and shorts. In fact, quality time is not even watching this session. There has to be a discipline where you, let's say, dedicate 1 hour of watching YouTube, and then if
Yeah.
you do these sessions, then you can watch. But it does not mean that you endlessly watch my podcast or somebody else's podcast, because spending time in silence is very necessary without doing anything. Because that's when the mind can stabilize itself. If I'm all the time stimulated, then there's actually no room. The mind, if you treat it like a warehouse, then there is no room if the mind is always occupied. So it's very important to make that room through quality time with others, but also silence with yourself. Uh, Gabriel, uh, how do emotional intelligence and spiritual insight complement each other in effective leadership?
Well, I grew up with five women between my mother, my sisters, my aunts, and they were very, very emotional a lot of the time. And it kind of frustrated me because I happen to have a personality that's more like men behavior, a man than a woman. And so I noticed that when they were being emotional in different ways at different times for different reasons, that it almost seemed to undermine their progress and their success in life. And I learned at a fairly young age that emotions are tools. Emotions are our body's ways of equipping us to deal with different situations. The three best ones that most people, now that I coach, have to deal with are anxiety and fear and anger. Anxiety is our body's way of telling us something could go wrong. Whisper, whisper. I'm going to give you some physical sensations. I'm going to give you some thoughts to give you the energy to prevent something from happening. That's anxiety. Fear is okay, I'm going to be a little bit louder now. Something's in the process of going wrong. We need to deal with this right now. So it's more intense and it's more overwhelming potentially. And then anger is okay, something went wrong. Now I'm going to be obnoxious. And it can be very, very powerful and intense, but it's our body and our mind's way of saying we need to go back and fix something that you didn't listen to the anxiety, you didn't deal with the fear. The anger is this situation needs to be improved. So if you understand that the emotional awareness and understanding is key to spirituality because the spirituality is your mind and your heart and your body all getting in alignment with each other. So when we have that emotional awareness and we really appreciate the value, I liken an anxiety to a tool like a screwdriver. And fear is like a saw, and anger is like a hammer. So, if we're talking about things in life, situations that need to be repaired, they need to be prevented, they need to be modified in some way. When you understand the tools that emotions are for you, they empower you and they facilitate you to be successful as a spiritual person because you take your mind and say, okay, what is it that I need to hammer in this situation? Or the saw, what is it that I need to cut into smaller pieces to deal with it more effectively? Or what's going on that I just need to screw in a little bit so that it doesn't have to turn into a disaster in the first place? Then you have that alignment and that peace in your life that other people can take advantage of and facilitate you into making progress because you're in a good quality state of mind. Yeah, those emotions are very intense and they do have physical, chemical um, productivity, right, inside of you for that motivation. But you really have to understand the situation that created the emotion in the first place and appreciate that if you channel that energy and those thoughts that your feelings are creating inside of you in a constructive and productive and healthy way, your emotions can be the tool that you use and that you take advantage of to make any and every situation that could potentially go bad, making it good.
That was really insightful, and I would like to add that if you focus on emotional intelligence, then you're addressing yourself the way it should be. You're addressing a human being. Because ignoring the emotional intelligence and spiritual insight removes the life from you, and then one becomes very robotic, monotonous. In the course of my life, I have actually met humans who are working like a horse, robotic, monotonous, and that and that's not how a human has to function. Humans are not meant to be like a money making machine. They're not meant to be uh, high productive 24/7. That's the job of machines. And I feel like humans need to treat humans like a human with humanity rather than
Yeah.
treating each other or team members like machines, which I have
Right.
certainly seen.
Me
It's
too.
been through with me, so I know how things are. Any daily practices you'd like to recommend to strengthen emotional and emotional and spiritual alignment? I was gonna say enlightenment, but then I was just lost with that.
Well, enlightenment, yes, that is part
No,
of
no, no, no.
alignment.
Emotional and spiritual alignment. Yes.
Yeah. Yes, alignment. And that's another thing that I love to tell people that I learned growing up as a young girl that in my ballet class, sometimes when you're moving around and you're spinning around and you're doing things with your arms and legs and you're on the tippy toes, okay? You have to do all of this stuff on a top of your foot about this big. Um, you have to stay centered, right? That not just balance, because balance is what's going on around you. Centered means the place that the top of your head to the core of your center, all the way down to the tip of your toe, has to be aligned in order for you to be able to do everything in an impressive way without falling over. So when we're talking about alignment, that spiritual, that emotional, that physical, all of those things that are going on inside of you, you have to be able to stay centered. Now, that to me, for me, has always been about being flexible. So, what I do every day is I stretch. I'm 50 years old, but I can still do things with my husband that I did when we got married 30 years ago. That's very important to me because I also breathe very slowly and very deeply when I'm stretching, but sometimes during the day, I make sure that my in I'm sorry, I'm thinking in Spanish now. When I'm inhaling, you only inhale for 3 to 4 heartbeats, maybe seconds, depending on your pulse. And then you exhale 3 times longer because when you inhale, your sympathetic nervous system, which is a stimulation, is engaged. When you exhale, your parasympathetic nervous system is stimulated, and that relaxes you and it brings you a certain amount of focus and peace when you have that ability to say, I'm going to completely block out everything external and I'm going to make sure that what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling and what I'm physically manifesting are all completely in alignment and in harmony with each other, then I make sure that in addition to stretching and in addition to breathing, I talk to people. Now, I'm an introvert. A lot of people don't believe that because I'm very socially confident and I can be verbose when I need to. But I tell people 60 minutes of human interaction will help you stay spiritually aligned because you're bringing other people into your soul, their heart and mind and body. If you have 60 minutes of quality human interaction a day, if you're an introvert, 5 minutes with 12 people. If you're an extrovert, 12 minutes with 5 people. It gives you a chance to say, okay, I'm going to get out of me now. I'm going to be focused on other people, but in a high quality state. That means you're getting to know people and you're synchronizing with them. The title of my show is The Power of Synergy. When we synergize, we come together with people, we empower them, we augment who they are. We have to have good quality synchronicity in order to create healthy synergy. That means we have to get centered first. We have to have emotional stability and peace, and then we have to extend to others to connect with them to have that spirituality.
I love the example that you used, and to be so. Let me summarize this for the audience: to be centered, to breathe, and to practice mindfulness every day. And I love the example that you used
Thank you.
because in ballet you do need a lot of mindfulness as you're at the edge of your feet.
Yes.
There's little support, and you need to balance yourself. Thank you so much, Gabrielle. This was a lovely session.
Thank you so much for having me.